hunger for information. Neuroscience studies have shown that we as humans experience real pleasure in acquiring information. We all know how gratifying it can be to type a few words into a search box, hit the return key, and have a host of relevant listings and links pop up on the screen. For many of us, it's downright habit forming. While seeking out information is a natural tendency, there are certain events that can aggressively trigger your customer to search out other buying options. A big service mishap can do it. A budget cut can do it. But perhaps most worrisome is the fact that your customer's simple curiosity or sheer boredom may be all that's required. What makes today's search and switch landscape even more threatening is that your competitors can make the act of switching away from you so effortless. All it takes is the tiniest signal of interest from your customers, and your competitors can lure them away with the promise of easy switching. Here's what I mean. A few years ago, my company surveyed 500 executives across a wide cross-section of industries. 59% of sales executives and 43% of marketing executives reported they wooed potential customers by offering them assistance in moving their accounts. Monetary incentives, paperwork help, and switch kits are just a few ways competitors are making it easy for your customers to leave you. Suffice it to say, it's a jungle out there, and it's never been easier for competitors to poach your best customers. But enough of this gloom and doom. It's time to talk solutions. The word value is defined as your importance, your worth, your usefulness in the eyes of your customers. The more customers value you, the less likely they are to leave you. It's about taking a close look at your customers' pain points and unexpressed needs and closing those gaps in delightful and unexpected ways. It's far more than simply finding a way to beat the competition. Customer value is experienced and felt. The right value creation evokes feelings like, you really get me, you see me, you know what I need. Consider Longo Lexus in Southern California. The dealership is the #1 Lexus retailer in total new vehicle sales in the Western region since 1990. But that's not all. Longo Lexus has been an Elite of Lexus winner since 1992, the most prestigious award given to Lexus dealerships. What's behind all this success? Go on their website and you'll see they let their customers know, hey, we value your time and understand that your busy schedule may not always allow you to bring your Lexus in for maintenance. When that's the case, you can opt not to go to the dealership at all. Longo Lexus can actually come to you. They offer a mobile van service for minor services and a flatbed service for major issues. Or they'll drop off a courtesy car and pick up your car, then return yours when it's done. Depending on the nature of the service, there may be no extra charge for this convenience. But Longo Lexus doesn't stop there. The previous value add about not having to come into the dealership also applies to sales. When looking for your next Lexus, you can request remote test drives and even make your purchase and delivery completely off-site. It's a perfect choice for customers for whom time is a precious commodity. One owner has had her car since 1998, and she's never seen the dealership. She's very busy, loves her LX, and loves Longo Lexus, but in over 15 years, she's never set foot in the dealership. So here's some wrap-up tips for quick wins on how to build value for your customer. The way you change what customers think and do is to create value that makes them feel something. Listen carefully to understand why customers care about you. That's different than why they simply choose you. And lastly, There's real benefit in carefully monitoring your primary competitors to see where they excel and where they let people down. That knowledge can often spur you to think of fresh, new ways to deliver customer value. The way to truly add value is to not simply be different, but to do something that creates difference. That's what Bernadette Jiwa eloquently states in her outstanding book, Difference. Southwest Airlines is a case in point. Since its founding in the early 1970s, Southwest had boarded customers on its flights on a first-come, first-served basis, with no assigned seats. But research found some customers regarded it as annoying because they had to arrive early to stand in line. Southwest's objective was to improve the boarding process for customers and at the same time lower cost. It organized an experiment in 2007 in San Diego. It allowed passengers to reserve seats in advance. The airline filmed the actual boarding processes and then asked passengers questions about their experiences. Results were mixed about reserved seating. After more customer research, Southwest found customers preferred open seating 2-to-1, and that assigned seating slowed the boarding process down by 4 to 6 minutes. As a result of this big, important experiment, the airline decided to maintain open seating, but it allowed customers to reserve places in the waiting line so that they no longer had to arrive at the gate early or stand in line to get preferred boarding treatment. The new boarding system, launched in November 2007, paved the way for Business Select, which aimed at capturing more of the lucrative business traveler market with one-way fares priced higher than regular tickets. But Southwest created even more difference. Customers paying the premium Business Select fare would receive preferential boarding, bonus frequent flyer credits, and a free cocktail. In addition, the airline introduced renovated boarding areas with the business traveler in mind, roomier seating, ample power outlets, workstation counters with stools, and flat-screen TVs turned to CNN. So, here's some quick how-tos for creating difference. Always remember, when redesigning customer value, don't settle for just being different. Instead, create real difference. To unlock true value, study what customers do and how they behave, not just what they say. Pinpoint your customers' annoyances and frustrations. Those are your doorways to value creation breakthroughs. When thinking about value creation, it's very important to know your customer's next best buying alternative, NBA for short. The first tip here is never make the mistake of believing your customer has no other alternative but to buy from you. In the eyes of your customer, there's always a next best alternative. For example, your customer may decide to source in-house or may even opt simply to do nothing for the time being. These things can always happen. But the more common situation, however, is that your customer sees one or more of your competitors as the MBA. So being perfectly clear on who your buyers consider to be the MBA is crucial. Take online shoe seller Zappos. When founder Nick Swinburne launched the company in the year 2000, he considered his customers' next best buying alternative was other online shoe sellers. But he was wrong. That market was too small. He needed to woo bricks and mortar store customers. And to do that, he would have to make an inventory model work that for customers was comparable with bricks and mortar shoe stores. That ultimately translated into the enormously popular one-year return policy and free shipping and free returns. To deliver on those terms, Zappos went to work to forge deep, strong supplier relationships by sharing its sales data with manufacturers. This was an unheard of practice at that time. In return, appreciative sales reps worked closely with Zappos on tantalizing sales promotions that helped drive site sales. The result was Zappos and its suppliers thrived. In 5 short years after correctly naming their MBA, Zappos sales skyrocketed from 8.6 million to 300 million. 10 short years after its founding, Amazon purchased Zappos for $1.2 billion, and today Zappos is the world's largest online shoe seller. As we wrap up the importance of knowing your customer's next best buying alternative, do this. Think very, very carefully about your customer's next best buying alternative. Look at it through the eyes of your customers. As Zappos learned, getting the MBA correctly identified enabled the company to then define its important value promises. Understand the value voids that your customers experience when buying from their MBA. That knowledge can ignite fresh, new ideas for delivering value. As Zappos learned, suppliers can be great value maker partners. Don't let old industry customs and biases prevent you from enlisting your suppliers and vendors. They can be a vital resource for helping you deliver customer value. As the old saying goes, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So it's extremely important to understand why and how your customers experience your product's worth. For example, when using your product, how would they define? We all have those products or services that we don't mind paying extra for. We certainly know that their pricing is a value strategy. In most any category, a group of people will pay for brand story and context. It all comes down to your ability to tap into what they value in their lives and then connect your story to it. Pricing's not logical, nor is it logical how customers assign value in the marketplace. And finally, pricing is subjective. You can command a premium price by identifying customers' truths and creating a brand that addresses them. Think Starbucks. Think Apple. Think Country Hen Egg. World-class companies build strong cultures around creating customer value. For example, Apple and Google come to mind. But my personal favorite is 3M. They've been at it since 1902. That's the year 3M opened for business as Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing in the little town of Two Harbors. From the start, the company practiced an important principle. They tied their research directly to the customer. They went on location and observed what people did. They didn't simply settle for what people told them. Here's a case in point. Richard Drew, a young engineer fresh out of college, joined 3M in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1920. At that time, 3M was a modest manufacturer of sandpaper. While testing their newest sandpaper at auto shops, Richard was intrigued to learn that the two-tone auto paint jobs so popular in the Roaring '20s were difficult to manage. Heavy adhesive tape secured butcher paper during painting. When removed, the tape always tore away paint, frustrating the workers and requiring them to do time-consuming touch-up. The problem sparked a passion. In trying to leverage customer value, a lot of people try to spot the next big thing. They constantly scan the marketplace in search of answers to what's going to change and how can I be the first to bring it to my customers. But Amazon founder Jeff Bezos thinks differently. He says it helps to base your strategy on needs that won't change. All the energy you invest in them today will be paying dividends 10 years from now. Every customer that buys on Amazon goes through a checkout process. Amazon recognized that the need to check out would not change and they focused resources there. That's how the popular one-click purchase feature was born. It works this way. Amazon stores your name, shipping address, credit card number, and you click once to buy. No fumbling through your wallet for a credit card, no multi-page checkout, and no annoying upsells. Now that's real customer value. Here's a completely different example. How about bill paying? There's the saying, there's only two things that are certain in life, death and paying taxes. Well, for the purpose of this example, let's say death and paying bills. We all know there will always be bills to pay. That fact was on the mind of Wells Fargo chairman Paul Hazen. He decided to form a think tank to strategize how the company could take advantage of e-commerce to bring online banking into prominence. He and his team reasoned that the internet could provide banks with far greater security than conventional check and card payment systems. Meanwhile, banks were well aware that non-bank entities such as Microsoft were going to try to poach customers. Microsoft CEO Bill Gates was quoted in a June 1994 interview in Newsweek as saying, "Banks are dinosaurs. We can bypass them." But Wells Fargo had the customers. Bill Gates would have to go win the customers. Wells Fargo saw their opportunity. Provide fresh, new value around a chore that would never go away. Paying bills. Wells Fargo got public recognition for their excellence. They were named Best Online Bank, as well as Best Overall Site by a U.S. financial institution. Yahoo gave the bank's homepage a 4-star rating, which is their highest rating. Jeff Bezos at Amazon and Paul Hazen at Wells Fargo have taught us something very important about creating customer value. Focus on needs that will not change. Look at your customers' unmet needs. Look at their frustrations. Then think about ways to help your customers address these issues. That's how you create customer value that sustains. To connect with their followers. From World War II Army. Storytelling is a powerful communications tool. Great leaders instinctively rely on stories to connect with their followers. From World War II Army General George C. Marshall to Ronald Reagan to the Bible, storytelling has always been the principal tool by which leaders help groups remember. A few years ago, I was preparing to do some customer loyalty seminars for the hotel chain Residence Inn. I interviewed a host of employees across the country, including general managers, assistant managers, front desk personnel, sales reps, and housekeepers. In these one-on-one interviews, I repeatedly heard the same story, how a single mother on welfare joined a Residence Inn property as a housekeeper and ultimately made her way to general manager of the property. The story carried an implied lesson. In this company, hard work is rewarded, and there are no limits to what you can achieve. It's what's referred to as a story of identity. It conveys value, builds loyalty, and reveals how things really work in an organization. Beloved brands typically do a brilliant job telling their value stories. Take grocery chain Trader Joe's. Their website has a prominent Our Story tab at the top of its webpage and chronicles how it started packaging innovative, hard-to-find, great-tasting foods under the Trader Joe's name. Trader Joe's says, "That's how we cut our costs and save you money." And that's important because value is a concept we take very seriously. And by value, we mean great everyday prices on all our great products. No sales, no gimmicks, no clubs to join, no special cards to swipe. Trader Joe's then lists the promises it makes to deliver the value that matters to customers. Here's a few. We buy direct from suppliers. We bargain hard and then pass the savings on to you. If an item doesn't pull its weight in our stores, it goes away for something else. We buy in volume and contract early. It's not complicated, states Trader Joe's. We just focus on what matters. Great food plus great prices equals value. As we've seen, telling your value story is an invaluable way to be relevant in your customers' lives. Here's some closing thoughts for doing that well. Recognize what's true for your customers, then create value solutions that match those truths. For example, Trader Joe's clearly stands for great everyday prices on great products, a value deeply held by their customers. Articulate your promises. For example, Trader Joe's pulls products off the shelf that customers aren't buying. Keep your value message simple. Trader Joe's states a simple formula: great food plus great prices equals value. It's now time to turn your value learning into action. This is where the rubber meets the road. To help you, I've included a 10-day action plan in the exercise files for this course. Please use it to jumpstart your customer value building process. The action plan will mobilize your team into action. First, identify your customer. Is it a consumer or a business account? In consumer markets, your actual decision maker is typically one person, or at most, a household. Not so in business accounts, where buying decisions are often made by a committee that, in addition to the decision maker, can include buyers, gatekeepers, influencers, users, and others. I've designed the action plan to work in either case. In week 1, you choose your team and select accounts to focus on. In week 2, you build a value plan for each account and begin to execute it. As we close, here's a final tip on creating customer value. Use yourself as a case study. Seek out your favorite places to shop and monitor how you feel when you buy or simply visit. Dissect the experience. Consider carefully what your favorite firms do that make you feel understood and cared about. Some things are big and obvious, others are probably very subtle. Then ask this critical question: what value can you bring that replicates those same feelings with your customers? I hope you'll always remember, delivering value that gets us to feel something is how any company changes what we think or do. Thanks for joining me.